I'm gonna get hit with copyright with that on my.
Huh?
So I'll get hit real hard with the copyright. They hear Ja Rule's voice for 1 second. I'm like instantly screwed.
And then, you know, Ja Rule, he needs it, so he'll definitely.
He really needs it. They hear the baby, baby. I'll be like, shit.
You'll get an email soon.
He's got catchphrases probably in that system.
Between his stuff with that festival and all that, he's looking for some bread.
Oh, you saw that?
I didn't see it. I looked at too many headlines and I was like, I'm not gonna watch this documentary. This shit. I need to though.
Wait, there's a Ja Rule documentary?
Well, you know, when him and the guy started Firefly Festival and it didn't.
Oh, you mean Firefest?
What is it called? Firefest.
It was right. It was Firefest.
Yeah, it was him. That was Ja Rule and the guy who made up this whole fake ass festival, and it didn't happen.
Ja Rule was in that?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that was Ja Rule's venture. Like,
that's crazy.
Sold all those tickets and nothing happened with it. The people got there on the island and there was no festival, no artists, no nothing. It's on Netflix. The documentary's on Netflix.
But I'm so scared to watch something like that because it makes me feel so weird on the inside. I'm like, oh, I know this is a train wreck waiting to happen.
Yeah, so.
The only thing I learned was about the guy who was ready to suck a dick for that festival. You didn't hear about that guy? So it was like the one funny meme that came from the whole thing. This guy, he was part of the festival. He was telling this story how it was like he was ready to do anything to get this festival to happen. And he walked into this boardroom like prepared to suck a dick if he had to make it happen. Like these are the words that came out of his mouth. Wow. And so all the memes were like his face when he said it, and it was like, you know, he's a real one, and kind of like, I wish he was on my team and shit like that. I know, man. I know.
That's wow.
Yeah, man. But what's up, guys? Welcome back to That's the Angle. And today I'm with Reggie Black. What's up, man?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
That's cool.
Yeah, this is great.
Glad you could hang up and watch me set up.
Yeah.
You know?
It's perfect. It's amazing to see this whole thing.
Doesn't take much, but, you know, with a little bit of
it's perfect.
elbow grease, anyone can have like a mobile audio setup.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem.
Thanks
I'm also it just dawned on my mind that me and you both are probably blending in with this whole setup.
That's right. You're not going to see us at all.
Oh, wait, hold up. I need to turn this light on real quick.
I was just joking. But maybe you are.
I seriously forgot to turn this light on.
Good. How's that? Perfect.
And yes, guys, I do have lights over here. That's what makes it look so good on the YouTube. Don't worry.
So you post these on the video on YouTube as well? Eh?
Mm-hmm. Dude, this is going to hit all platforms.
Nice.
Video on YouTube,
Nice.
Spotify. I feel like I can hear myself in an echo.
It's perfect.
Does anyone else feel that? I feel like this room sounds different today. Does it sound different today? I don't know. That's kind of weird. Anyways, I don't know why I'm geeking out.
Yeah, the mic's on.
Yeah, no. I know the mic's are on. I'm just like, why do I feel like I can hear myself extra like I have headphones on today? I didn't get baked before this interview. What am I talking about? Anyways, Reggie, dude.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah, dude. So I met you at the Umbrella.
That's right.
Exhibition.
That's right.
That was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And dude, I gotta say, that exhibition kind of changed the game in DC.
Which one? Ours or Umbrella in general?
Like, I think the whole thing in general was just huge for the city.
Yeah. I think DC is what's the words I'm looking for? Desperately looking for new experiences, and I feel like it's just such a interesting city.
It's a good way to put it. Looking for new experiences.
Yeah, everyone's looking for new experiences, but I feel like very few want to create them. Right? So when you get something that, like an Umbrella or, you know, like the space that we're in or wherever you are, right? Like, you're going to have a lot of conversation around the thing because nobody really wants to create the thing. They would rather critique the makers and the doers instead of doing something.
100%.
Which always makes, in my personal opinion, a place that is home, like, makes it an interesting city to navigate creatively. Yeah.
In DC specifically?
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's everywhere, right? But I feel like DC is an interesting city because, first and foremost, it's institutionalized. Like, we live in a very political city.
Very true. That's our business.
That's our business, right? So we always have to be in the shadows of the politics and the education and the healthcare, and then this art, creativity, culture. But it's here. but people don't know how to raise their hand and say, hey, I'm going to make this thing. They would rather complain about what's not here.
There's no art in DC, man. I'm going to move to New York or I'm going to move to LA.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's weird because like art will never be on the forefront for us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just DC. It's what it is. It's the capital of America,
no, and I'm guilty of it.
world.
Yeah, I'm guilty of it. I
Really?
Like I left in 2011.
Whoa.
So I don't know where we're gonna go with the questions, but I can just go straight into it.
Oh no, we're free flowing. So these little Post-it notes, these are just talking points.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I speak. Yeah.
No, so yeah. I mean, I'm guilty of it. Like, but I'm born and raised here. I grew up in Petworth. Spent my entire life here.
But that must have been like there must have been a reason you left back then, because 2014 is a way different landscape than what it was now.
I was ahead of the curve in a lot of ways. In 2005, I started a clothing line here. And I was trying to do very similar things that's happening now, but the city wasn't as receptive to it.
Like events and stuff?
Yeah, events. You know, I had fashion shows on rooftops. And,
whoa, damn.
Yeah, and we're talking like 2008, 2009.
Wow.
And out of frustration, like not getting the feedback or getting the like proper love or response, if you will. 2011, I left and moved to Brooklyn. And from 2011 to 2014, I lived in New York, in Brooklyn, and then came back for a little bit. Then my wife and son and I, we all moved to Bangkok.
Whoa.
Yeah. So huge life change.
When you moved to Brooklyn, did you find that they were more receptive to everything you were trying to do? Like, was it like
I went to New York looking, I feel like here's one of my, like, it's not an official rule, but I feel like at some point, every young person should live in New York City, because it gives you the skin and the thickness that you need. And it'll either chew you up or spit you out. But I think everybody needs to go through that hustle and bustle grind of a place like New York, or I don't know, Berlin, or a city that really doesn't allow you to have comfort. Because with DC, it's like you can do one cool thing and then mellow out and just ride that accomplishment, you know, forever if you really wanted to. You know what I mean?
Like a one-hit wonder.
You can be a one-hit wonder. You can open one restaurant. You can connect one venture. You can do one thing in DC, be the big fish, and then just ride that wave forever. Versus other cities, it's like, okay, well, what have you done? You know, what have you done? What's that Janet Jackson song? What have you done for me lately? Whatever that, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what have you done recently? You know, and I feel like as an artist and an entrepreneur, whatever you are, like, I feel like that's what you constantly need. You need that like push.
Pressure's good for you.
Pressure's great.
As an artist.
Pressure's great. Competition is great.
Yeah.
Feedback and criticism is great. And DC's a very delicate city. It doesn't allow a lot of that.
That's very true. So when you got to New York and you like were pushed or you pushed yourself into it, but when you got there, you felt that pressure and that criticism and that kind of, you need to keep pumping out content
and you get the energy that you need too, because everyone around you is trying to do something.
That is something I really wish I could find.
You know what I mean? Like that's one of the most important things that we all need to desperately do, is surround ourselves around that energy that's really pushing us to the limit, even beyond the limit. I think so. I mean, like, you don't want to be around a crew that just all they want to do is just hang out and
smoke weed and play video games all day.
Whatever. I do none of those. But if that's what you want to do,
I mean, I used to be part of that crew way back when.
You see what I mean? Like,
you
if
get stuck in it,
and you get stuck in it, and you look up, and it's like 7 years go by, or 5 years, or a year. Like, I feel like even a month, even a week.
A month is a lot of time.
A month is a lot of time to not do anything, right? So yeah, that in New York, that's what that gave me, and then I went there with the pursuit to get my fashion line up and running, and we had a couple boutique accounts, and we were doing well. And then what happened? Decided to shut down the business decided to shut down the business for a few reasons. Was just in an interesting time financially, and couldn't keep up with the orders, and then just had the whole business model wrong. And so just was like, all right, I'm done.
And that was your first sort of big business venture at that time, or?
Yeah, it was the longest running. Like I printed my first T-shirt in college in 2005. Went to Delaware State University in Dover. So when I left DC in 2002, I went to Dell State, and I majored in business management. And then I went there majoring in accounting because everybody was like, oh, well, that's where the money is. And, you know, growing up here, like the end game was to get a good government job. I don't know if you heard that saying before, like in DC, like, you know, if you're a postal worker or a government worker or, you know, one of those things,
you want that GS grade, that high GS
you get
level.
it and you hold on to it and you roll with it. So like that was the thing for me growing up, like all of my aunts and uncles and my mom and, you know, just seeing that. But growing up, what really sparked me was DC was a very entrepreneurial city, in particular, Black entrepreneurs. Like my whole neighborhood growing up were Black entrepreneurs. There was a barbershop, you know, a funeral home, a dry cleaning service.
It's a lot of good role models.
Yeah. So I grew up watching entrepreneurship, and I always knew that this was the only thing I wanted to do.
But that's not a government job.
That's not a government job. So when I went to college, I was like, oh, well, let me just do what everyone's saying because, you know, that's what they're saying, right? And so I changed my major like 4 times to get around to the end of it to major in marketing because I've always been a branding, for lack of better terms, like a branding nerd or a brand whore. Like I've always been very interested in case studies in branding and marketing and understanding like how brands move and how to like penetrate and tell different narratives and different stories and put a product or a story forward to the world.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's my like passion, dude.
Even
like,
back then? Like
even back
that's
then.
why you switched to marketing.
Even back then.
Like,
but I didn't know it at the time. You know what I mean? Like I would just sit around with friends and we would talk about companies and artists and entrepreneurs. Like almost anybody you think of, I can tell you like how they got started or...
Dude, I love looking at other people's brands and just seeing how they present it and being like, ooh, like they have a good brand. It sounds good. The way they present it's real clean. Like
one of my favorite podcasts is How I Built This by Guy Raz. Yeah. And he just interviews entrepreneurs, and The Business of Hype by Jeff Staple.
Oh, I'll have to look these up.
Yeah. They're great, man. And just for me, just always listening to how people, because the thing is, while we're all pursuing this, you want to feel like it's possible for you too. So you listen to the stories of others. Shoe Dog by Phil Knight is a great book, how he started Nike. And, you know, like just literally.
That's
like,
a crazy story, by the way.
Crazy story.
I saw
crazy story,
the Art of Design on Netflix.
Yes.
And so I saw his story.
With Bill Bowerman.
Yeah.
I mean, not Bill, but Tinker Hatfield.
Yeah, Tinker Hatfield.
Yeah, Tinker Hatfield. Yeah. So just, but that's my whole game, man. And, well, not my whole game. That was the entry point to the game that I'm playing now.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to have a lot of, I mean, there's no way that doesn't show up on what you're doing because, I mean, you've built something very big. But I kind of want us to go with like this whole kind of interesting timeline right now. Because,
go wherever you want to go.
Yeah. So you were in Brooklyn and like you stopped the clothing line and then what?
Yep. And then my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she was like, well, listen, like, I'm looking to our son. We wanted our son to go to international school. We were all looking for a different experience. And so she took a job in Bangkok.
Whoa.
And she was like, well, you know, this is, I tell people all the time, and I always like to say this like publicly and on record, like everything that has happened and what's happening for my life, my wife is like the driver of all this shit. Like she's the visionary. I mean, I am as well, but she has this very like interesting way of understanding what's next before I mean, I'm big picture, but she'll be like, okay, well, this is what we need to do in the 3 to 5. Or this is what we need to do in the 2 to 7. You know, I'm like, oh, well, how do we get a building where artists can live and work? You know, that's a 10-year, 20-year plan. Or,
that's like the goal. And she kind of,
I was joking with her the other day. I don't know if, I was watching a documentary with Rick Rubin and how everyone says that when they call on Rick Rubin to listen to their album and executive produce it, what ends up happening is that he reduces their music. So people was like, oh, Rick Rubin is the reducer. Because you'll show up with this whole album with like 14 songs and he's like, it's too much.
Cut it down to like 4 tracks.
Cut it down to
like
5, 7 tracks. Like, so I feel like my wife has a really good sense of like cutting out the noise to what needs to happen. So that's what happened when we moved to Bangkok. And I
Dude, you're awesome parents, by the way, for even being like, yo, I want to expose my kid to some international thoughts and ideas like that. That is insane.
We thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
In a good way, insane. Like,
yeah, in a great way. Thank you, man. And for us, like, we grew up on the other side of it. So we knew how important it was for Taiwan to see something different and new. You know what I mean? At the time, I had no idea of like what Bangkok was going to offer, but I was just like, in fact, I didn't want to go. Like, it took me like 4 months to like go. Like, they left before me, and I just
really,
yeah, man.
What were you like scared of?
Yeah. The whole. I mean, I knew of Thailand. You know, I've had Thai food.
Yeah, everyone's heard of Bangkok. Like, everyone's heard of Thailand.
You hear of it, but I'm like, man, to go live, like, not speak Thai, to go move away from my entire family. Everyone is here. You know, my mom's here. My brother was here at the time.
That's a huge.
He recently moved to Houston. Like, he left the same time we left, but my brother was here. You know, my sister, you know, like at my brothers, everybody was here, you know? So when we left, it was just like a huge thing. And I was in search of something that I didn't know of. What I was just going to take a huge leap to see, like, okay, well, the thing about life is that, like, you know what you can accomplish once you do it, but it's the unknown that you should try out. Like, it's the things that you don't do that'll haunt you. You know what I'm saying?
That's some deep stuff right there too. I mean, the unknown is the fear that can hold a lot of people back.
Absolutely.
From quitting that job or investing a little in something they care about or whatever it is.
Yeah. So we left they left in June of 2014 and I left like short after, like took me like 4 months, like September.
Dang.
September. But my girlfriend, my wife at the time, we've been together forever, man. So when we got to Bangkok, I proposed, we got married, we had a wedding there. Wow. And literally, like, you know, when we talk about a second home, I feel like New York from that time of 2011 to 2014 gave me something that I needed to get when I got to Bangkok. You know what I mean?
You probably got some like crazy hustler's mentality. Well, this drive that.
Well, it was like a residency. Like, I can disappear, which I'm very fortunate enough to have that privilege. Right? I can disappear for 4 years. We were there for 4 years. Not disappear in a sense, but I can go away and hone in and figure out everything that I want to do. Mm-hmm. But you only get that window of time, and it's like, all right, now that you master that or figure it out, when it's time to get back, you got to roll. You know what I mean? Like, but that didn't all come. This story sounds super beautiful, but I like to rewind a little bit. Like, I'm a recovering alcoholic. Like, I spent a lot of my life like drinking, you know, like irresponsibly, harmful.
Really?
Yeah.
Because when we offered you a drink here, you were like, no, I don't drink. And I was going to ask you on the podcast. So
So I mean, come from a family of it. You know what I mean? Like, I come from a family of it. My father passed away because of drug and alcohol abuse. You know what I mean? So it's funny. Like, I think at 27, I saw myself going down a really dark, just shitty path of drugs and not drugs, of alcohol.
Can I ask you? I've never really known anyone directly affected by it, but like how much alcohol would you consume? Like, what was like a day for?
Yeah, it was like every day, man.
Like you were just getting a buzz, or you were drinking like a whole 6-pack?
I mean, not even a 6-pack. So I was a whiskey guy. Like, I was just drinking straight liquor, like, all day. Like, you know, Johnny Walker Black, like, shots, and, you know, like, I mean.
And you just felt like it was normal?
Yeah, I felt it was normal. It started social, and then you realize that, like, it's your thing, right? And so you just do it because that's what you're doing. And you don't even realize that you're in it, but you're in it. You know what I mean? Like, you're just in it because that's what you do. That's so funny.
Amir's Amir's totally crawling under.
That is so funny.
Actually, he's right out of frame. That's hilarious.
That's so funny. It was genius too. Like he crushed it. Like,
I shouldn't have said anything, but I couldn't.
Sorry to laugh.
That geeked me out.
sorry to laugh. Yeah. So that's what that was another turning point for my life, but it informed a lot of the decisions that I make today. You know, I realized that living that life, I wasn't able to maximize my potential doing that thing.
Yeah.
And that's when I was just like, I had a real, like, what do you want to call it? Introspective day. I had called my mom one day and I was like, you know, how old was Pops when he kind of like really took it to the next level? And she was like, oh, about 28.
And we took the drinking to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, like, to really start going, because she was with my father like forever.
Wow.
Since they were kids. And so she knew him, you know, like she was like, oh, about 28. And that's how old I was at the time. When we talk about like history and genetics and, you know, these things that are generational curses, that it's real, you know, and we become our parents without even knowing it. You know what I mean?
That's so true. But so you're saying like you kind of felt like you had a predisposition to drinking just because of your dad.
300. Well, I started drinking with him. Like I would drink beers and, you know, just take a little swig.
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and then it turned into something, you know, and then growing up in D.C. before it was the beautiful D.C. that it is now, like it was rough and like it was in our community and, you know, like certain parts of D.C. are still rough. But you get, you know, for the most part, like it was a part of the community. It was a part of, but the tricky part about me, I was always an honor roll student. So like you could never see. Because in class, I was an A student and on, you know, on the honor society and this and that and that. And then after school, I was just like...
Just drinking all the time, every day.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I mean, it's one of those things where they can't scientifically prove it, that it's linked, but I 100% think...
it's linked, man.
I 100% think everything that you pass on to your kid, there's going to be some aspect.
Something.
You know?
Good or bad.
Yeah, good,
you know,
good,
it's
good or bad.
It's you get something from your parent, both of them. Mm-hmm. You get something from both of them, man.
Yeah, and so at 27, so like you kind of saw it in your dad, and that you just kind of just like snapped out of it.
And then
like,
you know, I started going to AA, and I realized that like you know a lot of people there were suggesting that I try control drinking. So control drinking and Alcohol Anonymous is something like where you decide how many days of the week you're going to drink and how much you're going to drink. And I just knew that I'm an extremist, right? So I'm always on one end of the spectrum, doing a whole bunch of something or a whole bunch of nothing. And I was like, you know, at this particular point in my life, I know and understand that I have to stop this completely or it's going to kill me.
Oh.
And so I went to AA and I stopped and, you know, like I did the cold turkey, like just no drinks.
Is that hard?
Yeah, hardest decision, but the most rewarding decision ever. Like, you know, I wouldn't be probably even sitting here talking to you if it wasn't for just me really saying, all right, Black, like we got to cut this out. Like,
unless you're like a highly functioning alcoholic.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you just got to stop. At a certain point, we have to look at our lives and say, all right, what's not working? And then like figure out ways to redesign that or stop or adjust or modify.
Those are some hard things sometimes when I think.
And they're very hard.
And everyone's got their own sort of thing.
Everybody. And it's really hard to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Like we can hold a mirror up for everybody. Like me and you will take a walk down the street and I'm able to give you all the advice in the world. And then when it's come to my own stuff, it's like, oh, I'll deal with it. You know, we human beings, we got this interesting way of fixing everybody else's problems.
Yeah, that's so weird. Like I could give someone some great brand advice, but when I look at my brain, I'm like, I could be doing this better. I could be doing that better. I should be putting up more content on this channel. And then, So when you were in Bangkok, you were clean.
Yeah,
you were clean.
I moved there, which is it's not the city to go to as a sober person because you talk about yes.
I thought they were like super spiritual and religious there, and I know it's like the lowest crime rate, but I thought
they are. But you have this weird party social life of Bangkok and Thailand that's just amazing, man. It's fun. So I went there sober. Yeah, I went there sober. Our son was 14.
So when did you start doing art? Did it start in Bangkok?
So funny enough, like. From the T-shirts and, you know, the clothing line that me and my friends we had, I was always dancing around the idea of art and creativity. Oh. But I feel like 2014 when I left and we moved to Bangkok, there was something I was like, all right, I got to figure out what I want to do. And I was always interested in stationery and pens and typography. But growing up, I didn't know it was a thing. Like I had nobody in my life at the time that was like, oh, well, you know, you can be a graphic designer and learn Adobe, you know, nobody, right? Like, it wasn't until I got to college that I started seeing people, not even people, like one or two people like on Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever, right? So I had no idea that this was possible.
Especially at that time, it was still really young.
It was very young, right? And so
nowadays, everyone and their mother's a graphic designer. Everybody. Jesus.
I mean, you know, in a way, I like it. Because I feel like creativity is one of those. It's one of the only things in life and in the world that people want to negotiate with. When in fact, it's the only thing that pushes the world forward. Everything we interact with on a daily basis is designed by someone. A house, a car, your clothes.
There's a creative thought at some point.
There's a creative process behind it, but on the underbelly of it, it's the only industry that is not fully respected. right? Like if you go to the doctor and the doctor's like, oh, well, I got to put your arm in a cast and that's going to cost you X amount of dollars. You don't say, oh, but can I give you, I know it's going to cost.
Oh, yeah.
How
about we do this?
How about we do
instead?
this, right? Like creativity is one of the only industries that it's not fully respected. So you got to put your feet down. You got to put your foot down and just really like lean into. That's the important thing of being a business.
Never thought about that.
Being an entrepreneur, understanding business and being very strict on like your business terms and conditions, but then also having like a serious creative regimen too. It's the only industry. I mean, like if you go to the car, I mean, of course you can negotiate on the car lot or whatever, but like, if you're in trouble and you need an attorney and he's like $100,000, you can't say, let me give you 50. Like,
but that's a hard thing to do, to be a creative who's also good at business like yourself. Like that's rare. And I feel like a lot of artists have to learn that.
It is.
And it's when you can combine them like you do, you're very successful in what you do.
I picked it up and then put it down and now I'm picking it back up.
Again.
Yeah. Like that 4 years we were in Bangkok, I feel like I went on a serious learning curve of like creativity.
Yeah.
And now I'm like back into like understanding. I just love that, man. Like they should just do that the whole episode.
Hey, that's how guests should come on the show.
Yeah. Just crawl under and then like emerge on the mic. Like it's so funny. Yeah, man. So
and this is Reggie. You just like pop up from the table.
Pop up, man. So yeah, that's where we, I guess from where were we? Bangkok? Yeah. So that's what am I trying to say?
Well, no, so you're in Bangkok. You
were in Bangkok, and I was really diving deeply in. Funny story. When I first got there, I'm a huge coffee fan, like specialty coffee, pour overs, whatever, right? And so when we moved, I didn't know anyone, nobody there. Like it was just literally like no. And so I would go to the same coffee shop, Ink and Lion, every day. I had a rotation. I would go to like Ink. I would go to Ink and Lion. Gallery Drip. First, I started going to Gallery Drip. It was the first place I went to when I got to Bangkok because I read about the #1 coffee shops in Bangkok.
Hell yeah, I'd go too, man.
And so that was the first place I went. Right?
Was it that dang?
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And they become like longtime friends. Like we're like, I miss those guys so much, right? And we've just become family and friends. And I have like a column that I did, like some graffiti and hand type typography in their coffee shop in Bangkok, which was one of the first projects that I worked on when I was there. And so I would just only go to the same coffee shops every day.
The good ones at that. Geez, at #1.
The good ones, man.
I don't know why. For some reason, I would think that Bangkok just didn't have a coffee scene, but it's so naive for me to think that.
It's new. It's new, but it's amazing. We're talking about maybe 5 to 6 years. It's very new. But Thai beans are amazing, and then they also have an amazing like importation of beans from Ethiopia, from South America. Like it's a huge thing, man. It's a huge thing, and I just started meeting people, and then I met a few amazing like mentors, and they just was very like, listen, man, like I see something here, because I would always mess around with markers and post things on my Instagram. Just on paper, like with me writing with different Posca or Crink markers or whatever. But I had no way of getting that off the page, skill-wise through Adobe or whatever. And one of my mentors, I call him the sensei, and then another mentor of mine, Funky Dog, Funky Dog met me one day and he was just like, listen, man, like you're gonna have to enlarge your canvas, just start messing around with other things. And then I met my sensei, and he was just like, listen, you really gotta like, we like to joke and call it that you gotta get 2 guns. Got to be able to play in the analog space and translate that digitally. So I just went hard trying to figure it all out and learning all that I could about, how to take this experimental hand typography that I was messing around with to turn it into products or prints or artwork. And then when I leaned into that, that's when the Bangkok exhibition started to happen.
Oh, so you started to turn what you were doing into like a brand and turn it into you as an artist.
I was really going back to pick up what I love from my clothing line, but to try to execute it independently with my own ideas and thoughts. You know what I mean? Like, because I I know, distribution and product distribution and wholesaling and all that. Like,
it's so crazy how your past life
it
coalesces all into that so one funny, moment.
Like, it's so wild, man.
And at the moment, you can't really realize it.
Nah, because you're in it, and then it's growing pains, and you're investing tons of money. Like you're doing. My wife and I, we funded my career like from start to finish. Like I don't have any investors, or you know what I mean. Like so. You put up your money and you invest in yourself, and some of it comes back, some of it doesn't.
What were some of the things you were heavily investing in when at the start of your career?
All my exhibitions, like all the materials, just
so
all the
expensive,
all the travel. Like I've traveled the entire, pretty much the entire, not world, but a large portion of Asia, Australia, New Zealand.
Just
Korea.
Putting on exhibitions?
I mean, no. I mean, just to figure out like where I want to show, like what I want to do, like just, R&D trips, getting like contacts for products and merchandise. Like I've been, scouting product, like just around. Yeah. Like
the exhibitions were that important to your career though?
Yeah, for me, because it was like I had to figure out a way to start getting my work into the world. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't in America at the time. So I was in Asia, and then I would start sharing my work online. And my friends and people that knew who I was here in D.C., New York, they started to see, something's happening there. But I was away, so
You're overseas.
Yeah, there was no way for me to like show what I was doing in America. But I knew I had a huge opportunity to build an international brand and have shows abroad, which living and working in America, we all have to do something to set ourselves apart, because it's just such a massive, like immersive, like rat race. You know what I mean? Like there's a million people trying to do the same thing.
That definitely sets you apart. I mean, when I first met you, you were like, yo, I came back from Bangkok. I was like, what? I was like, and Nino was like, yo, this guy's famous in Bangkok, and now he's back in D.C. I was like, all right, gotta have him on the show. Like he's clearly doing something right.
Nah, that's my wife's doing, man. She'll dumb it down, but no. And then when I got there, I was like, all right, I get it. It takes. I'm like, I'm not dyslexic, but it takes me a while to see certain things, and then it'll click. And I'm like, oh, like I got it. You know what I mean? So she was like, listen. I'm like, all right, let's roll. And then when you roll, that's the beautiful thing about. I feel like one of my strengths. Once I'm rolling,
mm-hmm.
and I feel like I'm in at 35. Like I started this. When I was in college, 20, I don't know, however you're old, 20, 21,
Yeah,
like,
it's just like that journey.
Yeah, just like 15 years of trying to figure out who I am as a human being, as a father, as a husband, as an artist, as an entrepreneur, which is why I tell people all the time, like nothing happens overnight. Like we'll look at celebrities and we'll look at whoever, and then we're like, oh, well.
It looks so easy.
But
they have a team. They grew that. It started with this. It started with that.
The Kevin Hart that's selling out stadiums now is the same Kevin Hart that was, on Soul Plane and shit. You know what I mean? But he's
doing
stuck
tiny,
with it.
Probably 10, 20 man rooms.
20 man.
But you don't hear about that story.
You don't hear about it, So I just feel like, and with social media now, like everybody wants instant gratification, but it's a law. If you're not willing to put in the hours and the years of dedicating yourself to something, even if it's self-discovery, right? Like you can go on this journey of trying to figure out who you are and arrive somewhere, which I think is, a huge testament to a lot of the things that are going on in my life now. I just would refuse to give up finding myself.
I like the idea, the dedication to something.
Yeah,
I think that's very important. Anyone's like, I don't care what it is.
Whatever it is.
Just be dedicated at something.
And that's the beauty of it. I feel like if we all choose a fight, like we can solve a lot of the problems in the world. Like we all don't have to stand up for arts and creativity. Like, somebody can stand up for Bitcoin. Somebody can stand up for ocean conservation. Somebody can stand up for social justice. I feel like if we all pick a fight and fight that, like we won't have this bickering that we have going on.
Well, it doesn't always have to be socially forward.
Whatever, man. You can say, you know what? I just want to be a pediatrician. And we thank you.
That's
because guess what? Like all of us have a child that's going to need you one day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? A garbage man. Like I think America has a huge problem with honoring noble work, like honorable work. You know what I mean? Like somebody has to get your trash. Somebody has to turn on your internet service. You call in your credit card company when you lose your credit card. That's somebody on the other end doing customer service. I did it in college. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we have a huge problem with respecting honorable work. We think you either got to build an app or some shit, or go on Netflix, or become a
It's really
Instagram
easy to look
celebrity.
at those sort of jobs and feel like they're just
easy,
shitty
man.
jobs, but really there's a lot of heart in there.
There's
I guess.
a lot of heart in it, man. I mean, I don't know, but can you imagine what it's like to say, all right, I'm gonna be a garbage man? You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think that's why, because I don't think anyone arrives at that. I don't think anyone is I want to be the best garbage man in the goddamn world.
No, I mean, possibly. Like if you grow up with something and it's in your family.
True.
Right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I knew that I had DC as a scope when I was little to see that at that time, this wasn't the only place. I knew my life couldn't end here like it does for many people. And a good mentor of mine who is no longer with us,
rest in peace.
Ray Jones, who was my college advisor, he was like, listen, like, you're out of here. Like, you got to go somewhere. Like, I'm going to talk to your mom. I'm going to talk to whoever. Like, you got to go somewhere. Because for me, I was, to be perfectly honest, I was going to be happy with, like, being a barber and, like, working at the fire department or some shit. And I'm not knocking any of that at all, right? Like, but the trajectory of when you're in D.C. growing up back then, to get that good government job or to have some sort of stability, no one was even thinking about abundance. It was just like, survive.
How can I get by? How can I survive? How can I get to the next month's rent?
Because that's what we knew. That's what we were, you know what I mean? Like, that was the thing. And my mom is, I think, speaking of like what you get from your parents, I feel like my mom is this like very subtle old like wizard where she just gives you a little nugget. And I find myself like going back to those nuggets very often. She's like, anybody can survive in life, but thriving is the thing.
It's a hard thing.
It's a hard thing. And you got to figure out a way to like try to trek that water. And my wife, like, we just was like, all right, this is what we're going to do. And that's what we want to put in our son. That's what I want to put in my nephews and my younger brothers. And, I get it from a lot of same similarities from my older sister too. So we just got it. Yeah. So we just, yeah, man, I mean, but I always like to reference that story of understanding where you are and then figuring out a way to get out of it, because my wife always says all the time, like, a lot of people can't see the picture when you're in it. Like, if you're in it, you can't. It's hard to see outside of yourself, I think. Like, when I came home, one of the interesting things that I was not struggling with, but I had to catch myself a lot. Like, everyone was interested in our story and our travels. And then I'll see somebody that's dealing with much more like day-to-day real shit than for me to talk about how beautiful Christchurch, New Zealand is. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, bro, like, my son is being bullied at school or about to get beat up or potentially shot at by some dudes that's in the hood, I can't pay my cell phone bill or my rent is behind. Like, so we get this thing in life where sometimes we fall on this is about me and really none of this shit is about who we are, which is where I'm at with my art, like, which is why I do my art. I'm just trying to visually articulate thought-provoking messaging. Because I grew up, like, you've been to dinner's office and you see that cheesy ass "you can do it" poster and you feel what it's saying, but you're like, man, that shit is ugly. You know what I mean?
You
like,
can't really feel it. Like,
you can't really feel it.
You
know what I mean? Like, every DC public school had a collection of posters that was in the hallways that had these, like, jumping stars or some shit.
Like, they all had the same motivational posters.
They all had the same motivational posters. And I mean, not at that time, but I can probably look back at it now and be like, man, like, so I'm just trying to make, like, inspiration beautiful.
I do know, I see that a lot in your art. It's very, like I said, text font driven. It's always very sort of introspective, maybe like, motivational, but also just sort of real life, like the one you had where you're exactly where you should be.
Supposed to be, yeah.
You're exactly where you're supposed to be.
It took me a while just to lean into what I want to do. Like, I grew up reading a lot. I love words. I love human conversations. But more importantly, I just like raising thoughts and questions to people. You know what I mean? And so I was like, all right, well, if you just got a cool quote, that's all right. But can you make it beautiful enough for anybody to like it and enjoy it? Because I understand that inspirational world is a bit much for people. It's like, oh, like, come on, dude, like, everything ain't always good. Fair enough, it's not. But I think the world is too full of negativity to sign up to invest in that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just not going to live my life like, oh, okay, yeah, everything isn't cool. It's not. But we can rewire ourselves to focus on the positive. The same way that we have advertising for products, I think there needs to be advertising for the human condition and like mental health.
And I feel like that's what you're doing with your art.
That's what I want to do. I mean, I would love to have the same space that like Budweiser for a beer to have with a big ass like inspirational quote on 95 or something.
What would be the inspirational quote for beer?
I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I'm not, for one, I wouldn't do like, I'm just not trying to inspire people to drink.
Yeah, I was about to say, come on, man. You're a non-drinker. You're straight edge, man. Bro. Come on.
I don't know how I could do that, though. Like, that'll be an interesting
like to make someone's life better, but also to encourage them to drink beer. That'd be a hard one.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
I mean, I'm not going to I'd say yes to that partnership, but, we're not exactly saying.
And funny enough, like, probably when this hits the internet or something, like, if a beer company hits me up, I'm gonna be like, this fucking Bruce. Hey Reggie, we watched the whole podcast and like we want to figure out a way to like inspire beer. I'm like, man, you got the wrong guy. And then they're like, oh, but we want to give you $5 million.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm like, that partnership looks real sweet. I'm like, oh, I don't want to promote drinking, but damn, I'd remix this PBR pretty fast for that budget. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh man, no. So, this is fun, man.
That'd be funny. Like the other PBR, like it's like, is this really what you want? Yeah, or something.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know, man. That'll be a tricky one. But you're right. Like it'll be an astronomical number that you're like, oh, well, like let me figure this out. So yeah, man. I don't know where we're going with this, but so now I'm back. 4 years away. Traveled the world.
That sounds like that's where you kind of found yourself. Was that
300%.
That 4 years in Bangkok,
300%,
investing in yourself, honing your craft, like these incredible mentors, which I'd say is really lucky to be.
I think I've been fortunate, man, to always have amazing people in my life. Mm-hmm. Somehow, I don't know how. The universe and the blessings from above. Like I've always just been really blessed and fortunate throughout my entire life. Like guys in the neighborhood, my uncles, like relatively not having a father figure. My uncles stepped up, you know what I mean? Guys in the hood stepped up, like my mentors and teachers in school stepped up. Like I had, people give, public schools a hard time, but growing up in D.C., like I had a lot of amazing teachers in D.C. when I was at Clark Elementary and McFarland Middle School and Roosevelt, like a lot of amazing tears.
That's interesting. I think like you always kind of attracted these people that really wanted to help you out.
I think that's what mentally. It is, man. I don't know. I just always knew I saw what was around me, and I knew I didn't want that to be the end of it. And and that, as you said, like to really find myself, like that was. I was trying to make a point at that somehow, but yeah, that's what it was. I really wanted to go away and like find myself and get rid of a lot of the notions that I was told. Because growing up, I thought I was an extrovert. But really, I'm an introvert.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so I was just questioning a lot of the things that I was taught, religion, who I am as a person. But growing up, you got a crew of homies, like you want to go outside and play. But really, I could be okay with just being in the house, or
the friends kind of tell you what you should be doing.
You know what I'm saying?
Like you kind of form yourself around the collective of that group or
absolutely.
Whatever it is.
And I think a lot of people do that. Like they sign up for the things that aren't for them, and then realize that it's not who they really are. And then it's too late. And then they got to figure out a way to like either retreat or rewrite another story. So going away was that thing for me. Like,
But plus it's like you're traveling. That's gotta be so inspirational. It's a whole new culture. I mean, it sparks so much creativity.
Living abroad, man, is like I said, we're a fortunate family. We're a blessed family, and we never take that for granted. A life-changing experience to be, in Vietnam, to be in Hanoi, to be in, Christchurch, New Zealand, Queenstown, New Zealand, Australia, Korea.
Was the art when you were putting out art and doing that stuff in Thailand? Were they receptive? Like, is there like a developed art scene and stuff? I had
3 exhibitions in Bangkok, 1 exhibition in Tokyo, and then 1 exhibition in Hong Kong.
That sounds so goddamn cool.
And thank you, man. And it was goddamn hard work because when you get there, you don't know anybody, so you don't have any contacts. So you just have to literally do what I like to call the groundwork. You have to get on the ground and walk to galleries and walk to coffee shops and walk to public spaces and like show up and try to pitch your work. And you get told a shitload of no's. You get 1,000 no's before you even get maybe 1 maybe. You know,
So I'm in that process right now of trying to find a spot for my next exhibition.
You know what I mean? Like you have to be okay with being told no a lot and get better a lot. Like I was pitching to have an exhibition in Tokyo for years. And I like, you know, the Japanese culture, which is my favorite place in the world. They just aren't for horrible design. So it was like, get better.
Dang.
You know, like get better and come back, you know, maybe next year. So you get told no, and then you have the language barrier on top of that. So, I mean, I literally spent, you know, the first year when we got there just on the ground in Bangkok trying to like connect and meet people. And, you know, like
I don't want to talk about race, but was it different being a black dude there
absolutely,
too?
we can talk about race 300%.
But I'm just curious, like
it
was that a factor at all?
Rough. One of the things that I feel like the world has done a poor job of is putting stereotypes on black people, in particular black men. Hell yeah. So
I know I'm saying really.
yeah, you know, it's like, so it's like, most people just think that we are basketball players or rappers, you know, or we're that person on the news, and they don't see, you know, black men as prominent intellectual in anything other than that. And, you know, that comes with stereotypes and why are you here and what are you trying to do? And, you know, like it's rough. So you got to get through that. You got to get through the gatekeepers, and then you got to get through even just trying to get a shot, you know? So it's a lot that you got to go through, you know, and be willing to get up and do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like being laughed at for being black, being, you know, pointed at, you know, most people in
I
Asia,
can imagine.
Yeah, it's rough, man. Like, so it's a big ass, like,
But wait, they would point at you like you would walk down the street and kids and stuff would be like, what?
They would grab my wife's hair and shit.
What?
So it's a romantic story, but there's so much that we went through to be there.
Yeah.
It's like everything has a price, right? Like if you say you want to be free, you got to be willing to like be poor or figure out a way to support yourself, right? If you're anti-system, you better figure out a way to create your own system.
100%.
You know what I mean? If you want to travel, you better be prepared to like deal with what comes with travel. You know, like everything. You know, it was to the point even a lot of times, like in particular, like we were there like right after Trump got elected. Whoa. And it was to the point where it kind of moved from, yes, it was still about being like black, but it was damn near to the point of being American. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Trump's like you're
like,
black American in Thailand. And people.
So you got to be willing, if you're traveling, you just got to be willing to deal with everything that comes
You are
with
that
it.
stereotype.
You are that stereotype. And as the father and the husband, I was like, you know, our obligation as our family is to make sure that we can change every perspective and narrative about people that when we interact and meet with somebody, we change their perspective of what they think black people are, most importantly. And then Americans, like, no, like, sure, you hear the stats and you hear this, but my unit, my team, my family, my son and my wife, like we represent the opposite. And even like friends that I had to come, you know, like one of my closest homies, say cool, like he would come and we would travel, and like you get two black men traveling in Southeast Asia, they look at you like, oh, they over here on some shady shit. But you know what I mean? We're just literally culture junkies, like in love with, you know, Angkor Wat. And I took them to, where did we go? Cambodia. It's actually one of my favorite, when we talk about culture and appreciating what you have, Cambodia is the country to go to if you really want like a mind fuck. Like
Cambodia?
Yeah.
It's a third world country, right?
Yeah, so yeah. Third world for sure, man. And we're talking about like 50 years behind, no infrastructure. Beautiful though. You got to go to Angkor Wat. Beautiful country though, but no infrastructure, no government support. You know, most people living on like floating villages, living off $1.75 a day. I mean, when you talk about like how fortunate we are, you know, you got to go away to really see what people are going through. And of course, like a lot of people are going to hear this or say, oh, well, those problems aren't my own, but any one of us could have been there. Like it's just the luck of the draw that you were born where you were, I was born where I am.
Like wherever your consciousness is slotted into,
you know what
whenever
I'm
you were
like, so the reality is like the human responsibility is all of ours. Mm-hmm. You can't just be like, oh, that it's weird. Like you'll see when we're on Instagram and something tragic will happen in a city or a state or a country, everybody's like, oh, pray for, but you don't even want to sympathize with anybody outside your bubble in Georgetown on a day-to-day basis.
Pray for France, the whole.
Like, I'm with it. Yeah. I get it. But it's like, don't do that when you don't even want to take care of your neighbor, or look out for the guy to ask you for $1 on Florida Avenue. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's weird, man. The world is reactionary.
Yeah, it's like, why help a global thing? Which I get it. It's altruistic. It's a good thing. But I'm sure wherever you live could probably use your awareness and your help.
There's an older woman next door to somebody everywhere that needs groceries. And I doubt that all of us rarely would ever offer, I'm going to Trader Joe's. You need something? Like, think about it. Like, how many basic level things we pass up that we could really help somebody? You know what I'm saying? Like, every cup of coffee I drink, for the most part, let's say it's $4. That's a meal for somebody on the street.
It is.
You know what I'm saying?
That's an expensive cup of coffee, but that's just what it is.
And that, a drip, like a brew coffee, don't get a pour over, or a Starbucks drink, or a frappe with the double drip. I mean, with the double syrup
and the $7 drink right there.
It's that's a meal for somebody.
Someone ate for like 2 days off that.
You know what I mean? So it's we just got to do a better job of realizing where we are and what we want to do with our responsibility as human beings and things. Mm-hmm. But that's what living abroad taught me. One of the major things it taught me is just, listen, like, be fortunate and make sure that you can make your blessings count, because everybody doesn't get this opportunity. As a welfare kid growing up in D.C. in the 80s and emerging through all of that with the mom and the family structure that I was raised in and the circumstances, my only obligation at this moment is to ensure that I prove why I was chosen to emerge out of that shit.
That's really cool.
And with that, like, I just got to do the work and make sure that I'm doing something for other people.
It's cool to see that you're aware of that, and that you kind of have this thing on your back where you left and now you're back in the city, and it's like, okay, how am I going to put on? Yeah. And I do notice that the messages through your work, you are giving back. In a sense, maybe you might put that seed of thought in someone's mind with that one phrase or whatever it was.
That's all I'm trying to do.
You know, like, I keep going back to it. You're exactly where you want to be. That kind of fucked me up when I saw that.
It fucks a lot of people up.
I was like, damn.
Because
you're never where you want to be. That's the problem, is you never are. And if you say you are, then it's like, then let me just vanish into thin air. Because
I'm just really trying to always put out things that we talk about in our head or in personal conversations. You got a homie that you know for sure that you only express certain things to. And I feel like my art is kind of like that conversation that I just want to plant a seed. I don't have it all together. I don't have it figured out. I'm going through the trenches every day trying to learn it as well. But I want to make sure that I'm, like, transparent about what's happening, and what's going on. And my grandfather, my father's father, growing up, he would always tell my mom that I was going to be a pastor. And I went on an interesting wave of religion and church, and not trying to be a pastor, but just questioning the whole thing. And it's funny, like, now if you look at my work, it has this, like, missionary thing to it. You know what I mean? When I'm
like
just
a missionary of thought or something. I mean,
just a thought, like, just to raise questions, or, that might have been a bit deep, but, like, I think I'm doing my own, like, way of just kind of questioning, or, like, not evangelism, because that's too, I don't want to give myself that, but just doing the thing, a human work. That's what I would say. That's what the art is for me, through art and design. And you know what I mean? Like, it's just a human work to really push people to something that they might not think about it. Because we're all thinking about it, but we're all thinking about it in our silos. Like, mental health is very important to me. So I'm using the mental thoughts and conversations in my head to put on the page and in art to question the world.
Yeah, no, I doing a little bit of research about you, I saw you had a TED residency, and you had a thing where you gave a speech and you were talking about mental health in the Black community, about how it was, suck it up, be a man, and something like that. And I thought that was pretty powerful. I mean, it's not something that I dealt with because it's a very cultural thing. Yeah. But I'm sure it's something a lot of people in DC can relate to.
Absolutely. Well, that's, I guess I not danced around it, but I interjected a lot of that, just telling you a little bit about who I am and growing up here.
Yeah. No,
you know
100%.
what I mean? But so when I got to TED, I was a part of the first TED inaugural residency where, of course, like TED Talks, you go to...
Was this overseas or is this here?
No, this was here. So I flew back to the U.S. for it. Summer of 2016. It's been about 3 years now.
How'd you get recognized for that? How'd you even get that?
A friend of mine was like, listen, I hear I hear Ted's about to do something, you should apply. And I was like, there's no way. Like,
we've all seen those TED Talks. You're like, come on.
So I applied. Shauna, actually, I want to give her proper credit. I met her in Houston at a Creative Mornings in Houston. And she emailed me and she's like, hey, I think Ted is like about to do something. And I'm always weird about saying people's names because I hate like name dropping. Because I feel like people in my life do things without recognition. So sometimes you'll hear me do like, I'll call somebody a nickname or something just to kind of keep people, I don't know, out of it and respect that, understand. But I do want to give people proper credit because I'm not doing this alone. Like there's a lot of people that support me mentally and throw me connections and you know what I mean? So anyway, so Shauna reached out and was like, you should apply to Ted's doing this residency. They're trying to try it out. 27 different artists and entrepreneurs and people from different disciplines. We had a marine biologist, ocean conservation, doctor. We were like the Avengers, bro. It was like 27 different people from all parts of the U.S. and all parts of the world. We had an amazing animator from Ukraine, like a doctor, all of which who I'm still very connected and close to, immigration attorneys, film writers, filmmakers. And the idea that Ted wanted to do, shout out to Cindy and Katrina, who are the program director and assistant director of the program at TED. And the objective was to get 27 people into a space and figure out to see if we could all disrupt the ideas that we came in with. Like, how could being in a room with a doctor affect the way that I see things from an artistic perspective?
Interesting.
Or how could an immigration attorney see something different working with, an emergency doctor?
That's
right?
so cool. Such an interdisciplinary approach.
So just really like take all the juxtapositions and clash them against each other and see what you come up with.
What'd you come up with?
At the time I was working on a project, I was trying to use public messaging to do what I'm doing now, but I wasn't quite good at it.
What do you mean public messaging?
So I was always interested in like using mass messaging and media to raise questions. So I always wanted to see like my work in telephone booths or on public murals so I was trying to figure that out.
It's like a street art kind of
like
sense,
a
right
street
there.
art thing, it was like a street art thing, but I wanted to like put it, I guess bigger, or like imagine, like a full rollout, like a Nike campaign.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, I would
that's
love
literally
now,
everywhere.
that's something. When you talk about the beer thing, now that's something. Nike called and like, hey, we want to do an inspirational. I'm kind of putting that out there in the universe.
Heck yeah, man. Put it out there in the ethos, man. You never know who's listening to this bad boy.
It, like if you know what I mean, like, hey, listen, like, one of the brands that I like Nike, Adidas, Apple, whatever. But so that was the whole goal. And then as a result of that, at the end of the program, we all gave a TED Talk. And I knew that I needed to say something important, but I think for a long time, I wasn't really like owning my story, which is how we got to me talking about what it's like to grow up as a young Black man in D.C., living with the stereotypes of, vulnerability being a weakness. And that's what I wanted to make sure, like with that platform, all my, I guess, teenage life, looking at TED Talks and standing on that red dot, I wanted to make sure that I said something important. And it was probably one of the most satisfying and gratifying things that I could have done.
And you're saying it to a group of intellectuals too.
Yeah, you're saying it to a group.
You're saying it to some of the smartest people who were chosen. Like you're saying this stuff and the reach that TED has, so you can put that message out there. That's pretty profound.
Thank you, man. I'm like you're saying it to a group of intellectuals, and you're also saying it to a group of people that may or may not understand it either.
Yeah,
and that's what I think. Like what the power of where we are in the world right now, we all have a platform to say something. Like all of us have a media channel. Like our social media accounts, we're all like our own Netflix now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like when you ask yourself, what are you really, the name of my TED Talk was, Are You Using Your Voice? Which funny enough was the name of my first exhibition in Bangkok. Yeah, so it's literally when you go through the thread, if you know me enough, and I guess I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be on this podcast because a lot of people don't know these components of my life. They just think that I just showed up at Umbrella and it's like a beautiful show. Like, nah, bro.
No, and the thing is like we spent so much little time talking about your art, but I think it's really not that important. Well, I mean, it is. It is. Like, it is. But knowing what makes you who you are as Reggie is what makes the art.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely. Like you can come to. I could have an exhibition of mine could be a podcast, and people can just listen to what I'm really after, and you might get more out of that than coming to see the art on the wall. You know what I'm saying?
And it connects you too.
And it connects you. I feel like as an artist, a designer, whatever you want to like label me as, like it's my obligation to tell the stories that I think that are important that people may or may not tell. You know what I mean? As a 35-year-old black man in this country, like I got to be able to say something, you know, that when my son looks and it's like, oh, well, Pops did it. Like, I can do it too. You know, or my nephews are like, well, what you mean I can't go play basketball overseas? My uncle went to go be an artist overseas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
look what he did. He made it possible. He came from the same situation.
Or anybody. You know, like I'm only doing this to make sure that if another young black man is questioning the idea of becoming something, he can look at me and be like, oh, like, I grew up on food stamps and on welfare in D.C. And I'm not painting a sad story. I'm painting a story of what it's like to see something and then want something different.
It's optimistic. You know, it's showing like, look, if I can do it, you can do it. If anyone looks like you can do it, then it's very possible.
That was it, man.
But now you're in D.C. doing it. Like now you're in D.C.
Grateful to be back because I struggle with my relationship with D.C.
Really?
Yeah.
Like a love-hate sort of thing?
Yeah.
Or?
Like it's the city that broke me but made me. You know what I mean? Like it's a city that growing up in it ain't fun. Like, yeah, it's fun now. You can go to Whole Foods and Trader Joe's in the block and, you know, and eat farm-to-table food. But it was
way different when you were.
It was way different.
It was way different.
And most people that are walking around today don't know that. And possibly don't care.
Well, they hear the screams of gentrification. Everyone hears them. Yeah. Everyone hears them, especially when the whole hashtag Don't Mute DC thing is going
like
on.
That.
You know, that's very DC culture.
Yeah.
And everyone knows about that.
Yeah.
But not many people experienced it.
Absolutely.
I didn't experience it.
And then, you know, what's funny now, I don't get a kick out of it. I guess I get a kick out of it. Then it's a bit sad, too, that when you meet a DC native, people are like, what, you from DC? Like, it's like this just became the place of, you know, like everybody else. So like I'll meet people and it's almost like like an extra stamp now. It's like, oh, wait, wow.
You're actually from DC?
You're actually from here. It's a weird thing. So that when I say the love-hate relationship, it's like, how do I rewire my brain to fall in love with the city that gave me something to go out into the world growing up? Keep in mind, like all my stories from entrepreneurship from my childhood, seeing, you know, how Black excellence moved throughout the city when it was Chocolate City and using that to translate and move around the world and then come back to a place that's totally different. It's a mind fuck.
It has to be a little mind fuck. You're like, whoa, this is the climate that I wish I had when I was coming up. And
don't get me wrong, like I'm for all of the progression. I just wish that everybody could be a part of it. Right? Like with gentrification, it's like when they come, whoever the they is, they displace a whole fucking community. You know what I mean? Like the politicians or somebody got to be like, all right, like you can get this part, but you can't get the whole block. You know what I'm saying? Or even if so, like, all right, we'll figure out a way how to put affordable housing. I don't know, bro.
I feel like that's kind of like a non-thought.
Yeah, it's a non.
I feel like, you know, whoever is allowing this development, whatever it is they're thinking it's cleaning up the block. Yeah. They're thinking it's cleaning the block. Wherever they're going to go is wherever they go.
Absolutely. And that's the interesting part. So being here now and my new roles here, my artistic practice, and then also being a director of a gallery that we're opening on 14th and H Northeast, Mahari Sequoia Gallery. So when I first got back, a couple months after I got back, I was approached, and a great guy by the name of Mahari Sequoia. He does a lot of work in DC, and I was connected to him. I'm only name dropping because I want to give people proper credit.
And his name's on the gallery too.
Otherwise, I would just, you know, say so and so and so and so. But a good friend of mine, Tabby Benet, who did a lot for the independent music scene here in DC years before there was a music scene. He connected us, and we've just had our head down for the past 5 to 6 months building out a 1,400 square foot gallery in Northeast DC. It'll be an independent gallery, and the goal is for us to explore the globe through art. So what you see in New York, what you see in Paris, what you see in Berlin, we want to bring that to DC. You know, like we want to really articulate a global narrative through art. So you'll have, you know, a local artist, a regional artist, an international artist, all in one gallery. Like really, you know, imagine coming 1 month and you see an artist from India, and then the next month you see an artist from DC. Then the next month you see an artist from Costa Rica or whatever, right? Like DC has one of the most powerful museum systems because of the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
Right. But I feel like in terms of the independent scene,
they don't show new artists. Museums shows old famous artists.
They show, right? So you have to, we as the independent scene have to do a better job at elevating the platforms of artists. Because oftentimes what will happen is that a bunch of artists will show around the city, and I like to personally call it, you're just recycling artists. Hey, you want to show here? You want to show there? You want to show there? You want to show there? But they're not raising their platforms, right? Like you're only allowing them to show work in spaces, but are they selling it? Are they selling their work? Are collectors looking for them? Are they able to go to other cities and have exhibitions in other cities? Are they able?
That's a whole nother level of art. That's a whole nother art world that I deal with personally, but also I see a lot of other artists dealing with because no one really knows how to crack into that.
Absolutely.
And I guess if your work is of a certain level, then you will. Yeah. By default, you will.
But I think it also takes a little tenacity on your own part
and
to
some business mind too. Yeah,
some business.
You have to seek it.
To try to seek it, right? Like even before I was into all of this, I would literally just go to like New York and walk around and try to understand it. You know what I mean?
What's the gallery scene like in DC? I mean, I know you're coming, but
I'm just coming back, so I guess I'm premature to speak on it. But when I was here, it was very few. Like I'm back now, and I'm starting to get out and see what's going on, and it's great. You know, I think the critical mass is important. I think the more galleries, the better. But I also know how expensive commercial spaces are here in DC. So you might not be able to get. When I was in Berlin, and I always reference other cities because I want to make it very clear that as Washington D.C., the one of the most tourist visited powerful cities in the world, we have the same power to do what you see other cities around the world do,
100%.
right? So when I was in Berlin, I was going to exhibitions in people's lofts.
Whoa.
Right? I mean, fully it's a matter of standard.
But the problem with those sorts of exhibitions is that they don't have what something like your gallery will have, and that's reach to collectors. Yes. That's more awareness. That's eyes on the space,
and that's the point I'm making. There has to be a hierarchy of those experiences, even to just rally the creative energy here, right? Like if you're an emerging artist here, and all you think about is getting in the Smithsonian, but you gotta damn near unfortunately die to get in there.
You pretty much have to be dead to be in the Smithsonian.
like it's like, man, like, so I maybe not dead, but it's a long shot and it's very discouraging for most people.
I don't think that should be someone's goal, honestly.
Not someone's goal, but
I get what you're saying.
You see what I mean? Like if you want to raise your profile in a city, you look to the biggest thing for it.
I think what's interesting about the difference between, like you said, the exhibition in the lofts and then the gallery space is that it's easy to hate on both.
It's easy to hate.
It's very easy. Like I'm very guilty of hating on the white wall gallery because
why? I'm just curious.
Why?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have soul sometimes. Like and so let me back this up why I hate on it, because when I've been on DC, since I've been a part of my artistic journey in DC and seen these events, all of my favorite art events are things that kind of defy the traditional gallery space. They are events where there's some music playing.
Gotcha.
There's some art. It's in a space that's not conventional.
Yep.
And it seems more of like an event. It seems it's an art show, but it's more of an event as where the traditional art gallery is white walls. It's very crappy operating hour times. It's hard to get into. And it just seems like there's a lot of barriers. But when I look at that, it seems like very few people go to those. But when I look at the event, I'm like, man, that's from a business side, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense financially because you could make a lot of money selling alcohol or selling small merch.
Well, I think it depends on what game you want to play, right? Like,
so you're saying these are two different games?
Yeah, I think that it's two totally different games. You can have a great event and you can have an amazing gallery. But I feel like I feel like they're both important, but you just have to decide what game you want to be in. You know what I mean? Like they're both equally important. It's just like the events, the non-traditional spaces are perfect because it gives people an introduction to what art is. You know, a lot of people that came out the umbrella, and I love that experience. It was amazing, right? Like it gave people a scope into the creative scene that they would have never known existed. You know what I mean? But a gallery is important because it solidifies people moving into another realm and level of their art as a business. And that's the part that we always try to hate on and shun, because as an artist in creativity, we got this weird thing where we don't really want to fuck with the business side of things. When in fact, if you really want to make it, you have to lean into the business side.
You have to lean into the gallery.
You have not even a gallery. Like you got to figure out a way to do something. You got to
get business.
You got to get a brand collaboration. You got to get a distribution deal with your artwork, or you got to collaborate with a hotel to do the decor. Art isn't a thing that you should spend your life doing and not be compensated properly for it. And I think that everybody always wants you to be an underground artist forever.
And some of them have that mentality too.
And some of them, and that's not a mentality to have, because what happens is that you string a lot of people along in that process. It's cool when you're solo and independent and out here with no responsibilities. But if you got a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a partner, and then you got a kid, and if you're talented enough, your goal should be trying to figure out how you can be paid by doing your talent.
You made an interesting point, and that's the idea that they both serve a different purpose.
They both serve a different purpose.
The event is more of like a purpose that's socially activating, like get some followers, get some local clout, get some awareness.
Yeah.
But I feel like no one ever buys things at those events unless you're Reggie Black and you sell out at Umbrella. We're all not you. But
what I'm saying is that I think it's very important to embrace all of it. And at this state, we have to understand that the art world is changing, the galleries are changing, but we have to respect tradition, but then also figure out ways to push the envelope forward. And we have to, all of us as artists and creators and designers and entrepreneurs, no matter if you're exploring audio or if you're exploring visuals, whatever your artistic practice is, we got to tighten up our terms and conditions and our business acumen of art, because the world is infinite and it's powerful. And like, yes, at one point it was go get a college degree, but creativity is shifting the world. You know what I mean? Like, and we shouldn't, it's like your favorite band. The moment they sell out a tour or they get, 100 new followers on Instagram, I'd use Drake, for example. We love Drake on So Far Gone, but now that Drake is, damn near Jay-Z status, or he's sold out. Well, isn't like, what are we doing this for? You know what I'm saying? Like,
but that pinnacle he's at now where he's sold out is kind of where you want to be.
I'm not saying that's where I want to be, but
not you. But I'm saying like as artists in general, he's made it. He's successful. Like
I'm saying, I want to make sure that all of this sacrifice as an artist, I can financially look at my life and be like, all right, cool. And I know that sounds super like whatever, but if you're not in this to pursue something that you can pass on, what are you doing it for? It's a hobby to some people, fair enough. And then that's the thing. Like if you have a 9-to-5 job to support that, fair enough. But for most people, a lot of the friends that I know are dedicating their entire lives to art and creativity and entrepreneurship, right? Like they're leaving traditional jobs to take the leap with families, without families, to do really interesting things.
Being an artist is just another word for being an entrepreneur.
You have to figure out a way to be an entrepreneur, right? Like, and I'm being back in DC, I'm meeting and connecting with so many people that really have that. I was at Umbrella because of Nina O'Neill from Monochrome Collective. She invited me. She's an amazing curator.
She is.
And she said, listen, like she comes from the gallery world. And she said, we met through my friend Allison and who is the owner of Locale Workspace, a co-working space in DC. And so all of my friends that I know are dedicated. You know what I mean? So for me, I just can't buy into the noise. What do you want to call it? I'm a no noise guy. Like I hear and see what's going on Instagram or how people shit on other things and other people. But the reality of it is like, you got to be a crazy person or an obsessive, optimistic person to pursue art and creativity, and pick one and then ride it out and see where it goes. Everybody can talk. There's millions of talkers in this world. Like Instagram is a great place to promote what you're about to do. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody just the idea of being busy is like the new currency. And it's
everyone's always busy.
Everyone's always
hustling 24/7.
Everyone's always hustling 24/7. And if that's the case, I just feel like there should be more commercially successful examples. Right? Like if everybody's always out here trying to get it, one artist that I love in particular, Chantel Martin.
Okay.
And I love Chantel because I got into following her work years ago, and I've seen how she's really knuckled down and done an amazing job as an artist for herself, right? Like, I don't know, bro. Like, I'm not trying to get too deep into it, but I just really feel like, to answer the gallery and the event thing, if you want to pursue this, your goal should be, how can I make sure that I can keep creating? You shouldn't want to do an event and then next month you don't even have money to pay your rent, and then you're like,
it's so expensive.
It's expensive, but most importantly, it's hard to be creative when you're financially stressed.
Yeah, it really is, because your thought isn't.
Oh, you're thinking it's survival.
Your thought is, what gig can I do to make money to pay this rent?
Oh, you're thinking it's survival, right? Like in a city like D.C., New York, Miami, a lot of places in America, there's no more luxury for an artist to just say, oh, I got rent and then I got a studio, because you have to decide, because it's so financially expensive.
Yeah, that is 100% fact.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So you can't be like, oh, I'm going to get a studio space and then I also going to go to my nice loft or whatever, right? Like, you got to decide which one you're going to do. And if all of that is a part of the decision-making process, you got to look and be like, all right, like, I need to make this work for myself.
Yeah, and you can get to that point.
And everybody on the outside needs to start supporting our friends and our peers that are doing things, because that's how this whole thing works.
Dude, 100%. Dude, I only wear stuff as much as I can that my friends, this brand, this is my homie's brand.
Like that's like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that we need everybody. Like, this whole journey is a communal journey. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm trying to build this thing. Nah, like, whatever I want to do, I want to be able to create opportunities for other people. And that's why I went into the gallery with our current team. Like,
it's a great business move too.
Like, well, yeah, but I feel like it's like an advocacy thing too. It's right. Like, I understand what it's like to be told no 1,000 times.
You've been that guy going all around.
Been that guy. Like, I've been there. And so, like, if I have all of this global experience and I have all of these things to say, why not figure out a way to craft an experience that's completely opposite, with all due respect to your point of the gallery, because that galleries are intimidating, right? Like, I remember going into galleries and knowing that I'll never be able to afford anything in there, but I just love what was in there. So I went, right? But I always found home in being in the gift shop. Like, I know I could get a print or a magazine or something out of the gift shop.
It's like what the event is. It's a little gift shop almost.
It's accessible, right? Yeah. Like, and so if we're going to move this thing forward, art, creativity, or whatever, I feel like we got to understand that the financial gain of it is just as important as the creative expression.
100%, dude.
And we want to separate it, and I just don't feel like we can separate it anymore.
You can't. You can't just be like, I'm an artist. Yeah, I survive. It's like, nah, man, you need to be an artist about your bread.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's important, man. Like, as much as people, this whole thing, the reason why gentrification is such a big topic is because it's rooted into the importance, which people like to overlook. It's rooted into the importance of economic empowerment and ownership, right? Like, and so if you want to do that, if you want to accomplish and check that box, you better make sure that what you're doing, you're able to check that box.
It's business at the end of the day. Gentrification is business.
It's business, right? But you want to make sure, here's the thing, the world is dividing in half. and you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're on the right side of the divide, because it's not going to stop. Like, it's not going to stop. Like,
you're not going to stop it.
We can slow it down. We can create our own like independent experiences. But the reality is, like, you still have to be in a position to say, all right, like, and I just feel like people try to use the sellout and the art and I'm a pure artist and all that as an escape to not really be on their shit and get out of their own way. Right? Like, it's a whole lot of like talk around what true art is, but the reality of it all is people don't want to look at themselves and get out of their own way to be in positions like a Drake or a Chantel Martin or a Jason Reynolds, my good friend who's an author who I watched write every book from, you know what I mean? Like if it's getting out of your own way and becoming it, you know, it's getting out of your own way and really becoming what you want to become, opposed to hating on Bruce Allen for having a podcast or hating on an event or a gallery or a clothing line. Or if you're trying to start your own sneaker brand, I'm supporting, because I just feel like it's all, and you know what I'm saying? Like, we got to start supporting people with grand ideas that really want to try to do something and push it forward.
100%. I think a lot of times the way something can start could look a little rocky at first.
Of course.
But you got to be like, all right, do I believe in this person?
And nobody wants to be on the rocky part of it. Like, everybody just wants stuff to show up real shiny for them.
Bro, I mean, see, you catching a podcast because it's getting more matured.
You know,
I used to have a camera on the table just so I could hold the mic.
You could have got me during that part. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love to see people using what they have to create something. And that's what I've always been about, like trying to figure out what I have disposal of right in my possession. When we were traveling the world, like, you know, I shared a lot of photography on my Instagram and all of that. Like, it's all still there. You go look or whatever. And I was just like, I don't have a fancy camera. I just got my iPhone. Whatever. It's the tool, right? Like the tools don't matter. It's like choosing to show your creativity through what you have.
You don't got to be fancy. That's the thing people understand.
Everybody want to be fancy. Yep. Everybody think they're entitled. Everybody think that they're already made it, and no one wants to do the work, and no one wants to put in the hard yards to put themselves on. They will prefer to complain about other people not putting them on, or why something else is being put on, instead of like putting their head down and doing the hard work.
100%. Or not help other people.
Or not help other people.
But you're in a position where you are successful, and now you are trying to help people.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I was great trying to redefine success, but you're absolutely right. Because success means for me, like, being in a position to have a voice to say something, and making sure that you say that. And I believe that if I can stay true to that, like, everything else that I want in life for me and my family is going to come. So you're right. Like, this is like a light bulb moment for me too, right? So now what we want to do at the gallery is make sure that we can have a place to elevate the platforms of artists and to show amazing work and to really change your perspective about what a gallery is. You know what I mean? Like, because yes,
you did. You changed my perspective in this interview. 100%.
I'm on both sides. I understand it from both perspectives, which is why I'm so interested in this new venture with our team, Mahari and Freddie Booker. Like, I'm really excited about it because it's an important one. You know, it's anytime you got an opportunity to change your perspective for somebody, like, it's a beautiful thing.
100%.
You can offer somebody spinach that never liked spinach before, and they like, oh man, this is amazing.
You cook that spinach, bro, go with some garlic and some olive oil, and all of a sudden someone's fucked up.
So yeah, man, that's
exciting, man. I can't wait. When does that open?
So our opening is May 16th. We're opening with Jamila Okubu.
Okay. Who's she?
Who's a local artist.
I've heard that name
I won't even call her local anymore, because Jamila, man, she just did a collaboration in Australia. Jamila has a 20-foot mural up at the Hudson Yards Project in New York. Jamila has done, I'm about to be her like brand ambassador for a moment. She's collaborated with Christian Dior on bags. Jamila, what else has she done?
She's killing it.
But
that's a great first gallery, because she's from DC.
I think, you know, for me, I met her when I had a pop-up at Resource Library that Allison, who operates Locale, I met Jamila at that event, and she asked me a question about my own art. In fact, she asked me, now that you've done all this, what are you going to do for people here? This was before I even knew that all of this was coming down the pipeline, the gallery and everything. Like, so it's almost like it was like a wizard connection, because Jamila was like, oh, like, well, okay, cool, we hear you. Like, which is what I always say, right? Like, I can't be foolish enough to think that our global experiences is the reality of everybody else. Like, people don't give two shits about how many passport stamps I have. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, all right, what are you gonna help? How can you help me right here in this particular case? And it wasn't even like a conscious decision to select Jamila because of that. Like, when I saw her profile and her work, I was like, this is amazing.
The work spoke for itself.
The work spoke for itself, and she was putting herself on, right? Like,
that's a big thing, is putting yourself on.
Like people try to overlook that, man. Like, you have to do the work for yourself. And I feel like once you start offering yourself and your life to other people, people find you.
Dude, I know so many talented artists in this area, but they don't put themselves on. They don't. You know what I think it comes down to? The ask. They don't ask for it.
That's it.
You have to ask for it. I don't care how dope you look on Instagram, or unless you know, some people they can't, whatever.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, you always have to ask. And in my experiences as an artist, as an entrepreneur, is that I've only gotten what I wanted by asking. Yeah. There's a few instances where I got some stuff by not asking, but maybe it came off the back of an ask at some initial point.
And so what do you think? Does asking make you vulnerable to help? Why do you think we struggle with asking?
I think there's a few things. So I think, one, you don't know who to ask. So I think for a lot of people, like galleries, you don't know who to ask. And I also think asking, I don't know if it's necessarily being vulnerable. It is, because you're probably going to get a no. Asking, there is. Once you do start asking people, can I do this here? Can I do this here? You're going to get no's. Yeah, so I guess there's that. But, you know, I guess that's where people could struggle with the ask is just putting yourself out there and not the whole 9 yards.
100%. I think we just have to do but I think, you know, it's more of this. It's more of what you do that puts people in a position to hear that other people struggle with it. Because what we're trying to do, we're trying to play this cool game where everybody can pretend like they got everything got it together and they got it going on, and they don't need to ask
on Instagram. We're all popping.
No one's having a bad day on Instagram ever.
Yeah, right.
Ever.
Your life's peaches.
Your life is like spotless on Instagram, right? But the reality, like, we're all struggling with our own baggage. We're all carrying something. We're all struggling with something that we need to ask for help with, right? Like, well, all of us, you know. And I think that it's the ego, though. It's the ego that puts that dark cloud over. It's like, oh, I don't want to ask because I don't want to feel.
I think I'm better than this. I think I deserve more.
I don't want to do this opportunity because I might not get this, or it's not a paid opportunity, or whatever, right? Like, all these things that block us from really doing the work, you know, like, all right, this opportunity might not be paid, but the next one might be paid, or you might get a contact to go and travel. And you know what I'm saying? Like, we got to start looking at the long game of art and creativity, the same way that an attorney knows that if I'm in law school, I'm in this for, 3 years or whatever.
Law school, you're in that shit for like 8 years, and you got an apprentice, and then you like, it's crazy.
So you're in it, but you commit. Like, the world today has a problem with committing.
Ooh.
The world today has a problem with committing because there's so many options, and it's easy for you to jump from one thing to the next because
you can see it all. You can see someone being successful in every little tiny thing. And
so let me try that. Oh, I saw that working, so let me try that.
Oh, I heard you make a lot of money from YouTubing. Let me try that. I heard podcasts are tight. Let me try that. Oh, you get free shit from blogging. Oh, let me try that out too.
No one wants to commit, man.
No one wants to really dig down.
No one wants to commit, and everybody wants to shit on those that are committing to try something. And this is it. Like, I'm probably unemployable at the moment. And like, if I considered like trying to go back into the workforce, they're like, bro, like, when's the last time you had a job? You know what I mean?
Even then it'd be on your terms. Like if you were to work with if someone's trying to hire you, it'd be on your terms as Reggie Black.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm aware of where things are at the moment.
Yeah. But I guess you meant like if you wanted to go like a traditional 9 to 5,
I couldn't.
You'd be like, oh, I got to make a resume.
Yeah. Like I couldn't. Like I struggle with, because I've always wanted to create for my life. I've been desperately seeking an opportunity and ways for me to make it as an artist and designer and entrepreneur. Like that's really all it is. Like I've committed to trying to understand who I am. And through that, I've just attempted a bunch of shit. But it was all very close to each other.
Yeah,
right? Like,
and I'm sure you failed a lot too.
You fell a lot.
Tons of failures.
You fell a lot.
Journey,
you
dude.
invest a lot of money. You waste a lot of money. You put your family through the ringer.
Yeah.
You professionally, personally, physically go through shit. Like people don't want that part. They only want
the fame, the fame. Instagram
they
followers,
want the shiny things, man.
The
and
big exhibitions in New York that are sold out with a line around the block.
Well, if you want that exhibition in New York, start with a local gallery in D.C. or a local gallery in Austin, Texas, or in your hometown in Boise, Idaho, wherever you are.
The closest thing to you.
The closest thing to you. And so when we have this dialogue and this conflict of what's more important and what matters, and like everything matters, like everything's a big deal. Mm-hmm. Everything is a big deal. Like no matter what you're doing in life, like you got to treat everything like it's a big deal. Like every recording you have is a big deal because someone's going to hear your perspective on your platform and that will inspire them to do something, right?
100%. I love those DMs,
you know what I mean?
Dude.
Like somebody's going to see you at a bar or in Trader Joe's or wherever. And I'm like, yo, Bruce, like when you had so-and-so on, they dropped some science. That's visionary on your part to invite that artist or that guest in to have this conversation, right? Or the previous guest. Like everybody is responsible for shaking the tree just a little bit.
And it's 100% right. Amir, I had him on the show.
Yep.
He told me that someone DM'd him from listening to my podcast. Someone from DC DM'd him, said they were totally inspired. They ended up calling him. They had like a 3-hour conversation. And I was like, that's crazy. I'm like, that's crazy. Even this few DMs that I'll get that are like, yo, this one episode of this part inspired me. I don't remember that shit. But I'm just like, like, that's awesome.
That's why you're doing this, man. Like that's why.
Feels good.
It should, man. And I thank you. Like I thanks for the invitation and everything. But that's what this thing is about. Like it's not about trying to create like all these rules and these gatekeepers and referees and, you know, isms and boxes, and everybody got a box that they want to put somebody in, but no one wants to do the work. And it's like, man, like, all right, you can be a podcast host and have a 9 to 5 and be a father. And like, we're trying to romanticize this artist thing when in fact it's muddy as fuck.
And being an artist is like 1/8 of what it is being an artist. Being creative is like 1/8. You have everything else.
You got to do everything else. You got to figure out ways to get on, you know, get your PR up. You got to figure out ways to be active on social media. You got to do your taxes. You got to do your, you know what I mean? Like
you got to make content. You got to do your gallery. You got
to everything. It's everything that comes along with it. But people would rather complain. People would rather complain and people would rather look. And I've been on both sides, which is why I can speak on it so much, because I've been a negative Nancy, man. Like I've talked down on myself enough to know what that looks like. Right? Like I've talked down on myself enough to know how that feels. Like I'm not going to be anything. This art shit ain't going to play out. I might as well just figure out something else to do.
Damn.
Yeah.
Every artist goes through that.
Everybody does it, man.
Maybe I should just go get that coffee or that restaurant gig for a little bit, you know? Kind of.
Everybody does it, man. Like we all are good at talking ourselves out of blessings. We're all very good at that.
That's so true. Or not realizing them.
And all this that I'm talking about is from a place of experience. Like I have, at the end of it, I hope that whoever listens to this can get that, like, I'm not trying to speak that I know it all. I'm only sharing my story in hope that you can find like something that you can connect with through my story. Because the reality of it is, like, we're all human beings. What we choose to do as a profession is just that profession. It doesn't define who we are as human beings. So you can decide that you want to do something and it's totally different than who you are as a human being. You know what I mean? Like, which is why I honor like, I guess what we talked about, like the garbage men and, you know, like honorable daily hour hard labor, construction workers and foremans. And like, I respect people. Like we have to, everybody's not going to build an app. Everybody's not going to be an Instagram influencer. Like everybody is important. And we're trying to like build these like gates to separate people. And it's unfair. It's unfair to human and honest work. It's unfair, man.
That's deep, man.
Yeah,
You got a cool perspective about just like the world and like, people in it.
But it took a while for me to get here. That's the point I'm making to this whole thing. It's like it takes a long time of seeing so much, failing, trying to figure it out, and I'm still learning. I personally feel like I'm just getting started.
Yeah, in no way. You're like,
you know what I mean?
You're not disappearing tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'm just catching you at this moment in time. All the cool shit you're doing. But
I'll be back.
Who knows?
I'll be back.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'll be back. I personally feel like I'm just getting started, and I'm with all of it. I am happy that I'm able to invest what I learned in the city that gave me something before I left. Like I feel like growing up on 9th Street, Northwest Washington D.C. as a child, I got everything I needed to go out into the world before I knew what it really meant. You know what I mean? Like I felt like I'll be in cities and I know some sketchy shit about to pop off. You can be in Asia and see
anyone can sense that shit.
You're like, oh, it's time to
get
go.
That street sense. You're like, ooh,
like they can be speaking Cantonese, and I know that it's an argument, and
everyone knows some shit's about to pop off.
You know what I'm
saying?
About to pop off. It's that like urban IQ that DC gave me to really assess the world to go out into it.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, man. So
well, shit, man. If anyone wants to follow you or anything you're coming up, where should they go?
Where am I? I'm on Instagram. I am Reggie Black. It's just all together. I am Reggie Black.
And I'll link it in the description on YouTube.
I am ReggieBlack.com. Follow the gallery as well. Mahari Sequar.
I'll link that in the YouTube as well.
I'll link it too. Well, you can link it. What else? Where else am I? Yeah, I think that's it. A lot of things on the pipeline, but I don't want to talk too prematurely about it all.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for the opportunity. I want you to keep doing this because it's necessary and important. And I think that
this isn't stopping, man.
Yeah, don't stop, man.
I can't.
And I think that you just need to you don't need to do anything, but just keep doing this because like this is what people need to hear. This is why I like doing them so much. I probably talk like shit.
No, this is why I like doing them too because I never know what I'm gonna get sometimes. I can only see them for the few accolades I can realize and see, and then be like, okay, I hope this guy has a cool story. And they always do. Every guest is always good. And I don't know if it's because I'm really good at interviewing or what it is.
I had a piece in our recent show at Umbrella. We only know the half of the story. And so I feel like when you can do this gives people just a glimpse and somebody might look at it or listen to it and fast forward or stop listening to it. Fair enough, right? But the point of it is that you are giving people an opportunity to tell their stories that otherwise you can't curate life. Like you can't put a filter on real life. Mm-hmm. And you got to hear about and learn about the scars of other people to realize that like we're all in the trenches together and we're all in this beautiful like human experience and we're trying to explore the human condition together. And as a Black man, what I am more particularly interested in is like making vulnerability cool, making transparency cool. As an artist, what I'm more interested in is telling people to get off their shit and get out their own way and stop hating on everybody else and other things and worry about the gatekeepers and focus on like putting yourself on and stop feeling like trying to act like you're something before you get there and realize that we all are. When I heard Pharrell was talking the other day about like him still feel like an imposter, I'm like, bro, like you're Pharrell Williams, like stop it. But the reality is like everybody feels like we don't belong, but we do belong. And so we show up every day through the fear. We show up every day through the anxiety and through like the questions, and we do work and we put it out to the world and we know that people are going to judge it. But like, that's the beautiful thing about it because somebody else going to get something from it. So,
oh yeah.
That's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah. I'm sure anyone who's listened to this will get something from you, man.
I hope so, man. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming on, man. You blew my mind.
Thank you, brother, man. I'm looking forward to this, and let me know what I can do to support and help, and Yeah, we got to keep this
Appreciate
going.
that.
Keep this going, man.
Appreciate that, 100%.
This is
Well,
important.
we'll wrap after I wrap this up. That'd be cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. That's The Angle. Peace.